Alrighty, hello, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls. Today we're going to be practicing writing race responses. So I've just opened up the article we're going to be referring to. I always like to look at the questions first, so that way I kind of have an idea of what it is that I'm going to be reading for, what I'm going to be looking for here. The first question, why do some people feel that vampire bats need to be killed? And why do some people feel that the vampire bats should not be killed? All right, pretty straightforward here. So I'm going to go to the PDF. You can see it's linked right here. The first step after reading over the questions, of course, would be to read the article. So vampire bat debate, to kill or not to kill. Cattleman Francisco Olivia was on a roundup of vampire bats. After a swarm of blood-slurping creatures dive-bombed his herd and drank their fill one recent night, he corralled several dozen of them in special contraptions that looked like giant badminton nets. He put each bat in a cage and then applied a poison called vampirin to their backs with a brush before releasing them. Back in the bat roost, the animals would be groomed by about 20 other bats, causing their deaths. Here in the remote and hilly southwest corner of Panama, Olivia and other cattlemen wage a continual battle against a variety of livestock pests, such as coyotes, crocodiles, ticks, worms, and a host of tropical diseases. But he has been driven to the edge of desperation by the increasing bat attacks. Surveying his cattle, most of Olivia's 300-head herd bore fang markings and red stains from the nightly bloodletting. During the month of April, Olivia said, he lost 10 calves to anemia caused by successive bloodlettings. He and other cattlemen bemoan the scarcity of the bat-catching nets, which are strictly controlled by the Panamanian government to prevent their use to capture endangered birds. Olivia said adult vampire bats, which have a wingspan of 8 inches, swoop down by the hundreds over his herd, land on the ground, and then jump on the animals' legs, underbellies, or faces to bite them. A bat's saliva contains an anticoagulant that makes blood flow freely, and the bat laps up the blood. Olivia said he would exterminate every bat if he could. Stefan Closey, a research zoologist, begged to differ. He not only stuck up for the vampire bats, but described the animals as boons to humanity. Bat-based research led to the development of sonar and anticoagulant medicines that prevent heart attacks, and scientists are only beginning to understand the creatures. Very little of what we have invented has been made from scratch. Nature usually provides the template. Vampires could hold the key to a problem we want to solve, like AIDS or cancer. But if you destroy them, they are lost for eternity. Close also confessed a fondness for the creatures. The scientist said feeding time, when the bats accept bits of banana from his hand, is a really sweet and peaceful sight. It always reminds me of how close these animals are to us and how increasingly intelligent they are. Certainly more exotic and wilder than my neighbor's dog, but no less smart or cuddly. In addition, Panama's bat population plays an important role in pollination and insect control. Panama has 120 bat species, and bats are found globally, except in Antarctica. Non-vampire bats make up the majority of the 1,100 known bat species. There are only 3 blood-sucking or vampire species of bats. Vampire bats have always been present in Panama, and their attacks have ebbed and flowed, but now the attacks have become more frequent. Scientists theorize that the increased attacks on livestock are due to timber cutting that has flushed bats out of food-rich forests to cattle herds, a ready-made and usually stationary food supply for the bats. Okay, so let's look here at our questions. Why do some people feel that vampire bats need to be killed? So this question is already answered for us, but I want to go over the different parts of race. Okay? Your questions on ISTEP and other such tests may not say use the race strategy. Okay, so it's important that you kind of take this upon yourself to answer using race. So, some people feel that vampire bats need to be killed because they cause problems for cattlemen. For example, Olivia said he lost 10 calves to anemia caused by successive bloodletting. This quote from the article
Hello,
shows,
good morning. You know
excuse
what?
me,
I need Paul Washington to come to the AP office, please. Thank you, Angel Gold.
sorry about that. This quote from the article shows how vampire bats are harming livestock and proves why vampire bats need to be killed. So the first stage of race is to restate. So we're going to restate this question. And when we do this, we make sure that the question turns into a statement. Okay? So I'm going to highlight this in red. Some people feel vampire bats need to be killed because. Okay, that's restating. The answer, because they cause problems for cattlemen. Okay, for example, okay, I could have said in the text it states, but you want to have some sort of phrase here to signal to your reader, hey, this is a quote coming up. And this big long thing here, this is our C, citing. And this quote from the article shows this is where we are E, explaining. Oops, can't really tell the difference there on my screen. There we go. So here you can see this ... This is showing that part of the quote was cut off. So you don't have to copy the entire sentence. If there's only a piece that you are wanting to use, you can put the ... inside the quotes. And that shows that you are shortening what the quote says. Okay, so we have all parts of race here. Why do some people feel that vampire bats need to be killed? Some people feel that the vampire bats need to be killed because, restate, they cause problems for cattlemen. Answer. For example, Olivia said he lost 10 calves to anemia caused by successive bloodletting. C, citing. This quote from the article shows how vampire bats are harming livestock and proves why vampire bats need to be killed. And that's E, explaining. So let's look at our next question here. Why do some people feel that the vampire bats should not be killed? Okay, we're looking at the same article. So let's start off here with R, restating. So, some people feel that the vampire bats should not be killed because. All right, so let's look back in here. Okay, so I remember whenever I read this, the Stephen Close, right? He was kind of a fan of these vampire bats. And I remember that he said that if we were to study them, we might make some scientific discoveries, okay? Some people feel that the vampire bat should not be killed because we could possibly learn a lot science. No, sorry, I'm going to rephrase. And this is fine. Like, this is a normal part of race. Just because you type something down doesn't mean you have to keep it. So I don't like that wording, so I'm going to get rid of that. Should not be killed because bats could help people studying I don't know if I like that yet or not, but vampire bats could help people who are studying science. For right now, that's going to be okay. Okay. So actually, I kind of like this quote that's already pulled out for us. Sometimes you'll get lucky in what we in your article, and there'll be like, "Hey, here's a key quote," or you could pull from the article here. Very little of what we have invented has been made from scratch. Nature usually provides the templates. Vampires could hold the key to a problem we want to solve, like AIDS or cancer. So, I would say, for example, I want to say that this is specifically Stefan Klose. Klose. Stated. Let's see. I'm going to use this one just because I feel like that really covers what it is I'm trying to say. Could hold the key to a problem. Problem we want to solve, like a Okay, so here I did something else that you may want to do. So I put these brackets here because in this quote, them could really refer to anyone. So we know we're talking about the vampire bats, but just to make sure it's really clear to our reader, that's why I added in the brackets to show, hey, this is my, these are my own words, and I want to make sure that that this quote is a little bit clearer. These statements by Klose show people do not wish to kill vampire. Some people would prefer to study vampire bats instead of killing them. Because vampire bats Okay, I'm going to rephrase my answer again. I still don't really like that because studying vampire bats could be beneficial. Okay, so again, let's look over here, make sure I have all parts of race. First step, R, restate. So why do some people feel that vampire bats should not be killed? Some people feel that the vampire bat should not be killed because, all right, there's our R. Studying vampire bats could be beneficial for further scientific discoveries. There's our A, our answer. For example, Stephen Close, a research zoologist, stated, vampires could hold the key to a problem we want to solve, like AIDS or cancer. Close goes on to state, but if you destroy them, vampire bats, they are lost for eternity. Okay, and there is our cite. These statements by Close show that some people would prefer to study the vampire bats instead of killing them. There's where we explain. You don't have to use multiple quotes, but if you're able to, that's great. In this instance, I could have gotten rid of this middle part here and made it one big quote, and that would have been fine as well. So now it will be your turn to practice using race. The first question will be from the same article. The second question will be from a different article, and you'll have a link in your questions. Best of luck.